And good day, everybody. This is Marcel Portute. Hope everyone is doing well out there in the world. We're recording this on September 4th, 2019, and this is the recording of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're very excited about what we have coming up for you today. Jam-packed show. We're in the middle of the end of the summer, middle of sports activities, and the start of the fall sports upon us. So very active times with us, not only on the site, but for all of you out there listening to our show and heading to our site. Thank you as always for checking out everything that we do. Very good week for us because Georgia State winning a football game at Tennessee brings us a lot of attention because we are a primary coverer of that team, or one of the primary coverers of the team. It's one of our primary sports. So very excited about the content there. We'll get into that matchup leading off the show, and we'll break down what we're going to have coming up on our broadcast. But as always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, thesportsinquirer.net. We have a great amount of content on there. We've done a little bit of a remix or revamping of the site as well. Hopefully you like it. It's a little more organized. We have some archives. So when I talk about looking up things, if you've heard our previous shows, instead of having to look it up, you go straight to the top of the page, and you have our archives from our Georgia State content, Georgia Tech, Atlanta United. You click on there, and you get go straight to a page with all of our previous coverage of the team. So you click on there, and you get a link to all of our other stuff. And our archived podcast from the Sports Inquirer Show that you're listening to now, which is verbal submission, and things along those lines. So make sure you check out our site and see the revamping of it. We also have the exclusive interviews with Shawn Elliott right after the victory over Tennessee, and Trey Barrett, the running back who led the game in rushing. So we have that up there on the site. We also have Georgia State volleyball and Georgia Tech volleyball. We were able to get to the preseason camp, get some thoughts from Coach Collier and Coach Polhamus, and we'll break those down as well later on in the show, and some players also. So make sure you check the site out for that. And as always, Atlanta United, they were on the road in Philadelphia this past week, and they're in international break, so not so much there over the past about week or so, but we're going to have all of our archives up there from them as well. And trust me, we'll get to Georgia football and Georgia Tech football as well, because the fall is a hectic time, because we do a lot of volleyball, we do a lot of football, of course, and Atlanta United in a playoff push. So we have a lot going on. Make sure you check the site out. Twitter and Instagram, go to Sports Inquirer, all one word. Go to either one of those social media platforms, subscribe to us there, and you'll get a link to everything that we're doing as it goes up in live time. Same thing on Facebook. Go to The Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer, those two separate pages. Same deal. Whenever we post something on sportsinquirer.net, it'll be up on Facebook also. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud for our audio content of all of the latest shows that we do, and interviews as well. We're starting to post more of our interviews and pressers on the SoundCloud as well. It's a very good listening option as far as your tablet, your phone, laptop, TV, whatever you're using to listen and watch our content. SoundCloud's a good way to do that as always. As far as today's show goes, it's going to be a full one, so buckle up and get ready for it. We're going to start off with college football. We'll talk about that Georgia State win at Tennessee. Georgia Tech lost at Clemson. Georgia was victorious at Vanderbilt. And we'll also discuss the rest of the SEC and the ACC and what happened in week one. I say week one. I know Miami and Florida played 2 weeks ago, but Labor Day weekend is really when college football starts for me. But we'll talk about all the college football action from the Southern Conferences, SEC and ACC, and maybe go around the nation as well. We'll discuss Atlanta United. We'll get to that defeat in Philadelphia and what happened there. We'll next talk about volleyball. We were able to go to the Georgia State and Georgia preseason camps and get some thoughts from there. And then we'll round things out with a little bit of a tease of our NFL preview. We're going to do a separate show for the NFL and our Gridiron Blitz season preview tomorrow. We'll record that tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. We will get it in at some point. But I have some thoughts. Ezekiel Elliott, Jared Goff signed some big-time long extensions to their respective teams, Cowboys and the Rams. So I have some thoughts on that. Maybe touch a little bit on U.S. Open and then other things in the miscellaneous department. We're going to take our first break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to delve into college football and the week that was here on the Sports Inquirer Show. And welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. Marcel Portute here with you. So, in the college football portion of the show, which we usually give names to our different segments of the show. And first time listening, thank you for listening to our show. But yeah, like when we do our MMA content, it's verbal submission. When we do our NFL, it's gridiron blitz. College football, there are two of them. There's the triple option attack, which is an ode to a type of college offense, but also technical state of Georgia athletics. And we're going to do a separate show on that. We're just discussing college athletics in the state of Georgia. But I figured that since we're doing football and volleyball, it kind of tied together, we'll incorporate it into the Sports Inquirer Show. So this segment is going to be called the technical state of Georgia athletics, or triple option attack, whichever way you want to put it. But as far as college football goes, we'll start with the Georgia State win at Tennessee. I watched the match from home on an interesting feed on ESPNU. I'll put it this way. We don't have ESPNU in the Portude household, but I was able to watch the game. And there are ways to do that. So I was able to watch them get contests and see Georgia State score 2 late fourth quarter touchdowns to seal the victory 38-30 on Saturday afternoon at Neyland Stadium. My biggest takeaway from, first of all, Georgia State, which is in its 10th year of playing football, not only beat its first SEC opponent, but also its first Power 5 opponent in the history of the program, which just became an FBS program 5 years ago. So they play in the bowl games. FCS is the old Division I AA component. But Georgia State was able to not only get a first SEC win, but over a Power 5 opponent, and any opponent from the ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12. So very big event for Georgia State. I was going to say the thing that surprised me the most in the contest was the control of the Panthers on the offensive and defensive lines. Georgia State was able to outrush Tennessee 213-94 in rushing yards. Dan Ellington had a big performance with 139 yards passing and 2 TDs, and also had 78 yards of rushing on the ground to control the contest. The win was really capped with this 22-yard TD run with 4:45 left to play in the contest. Trey Barrett, he led the Panthers on the ground with 98 yards on 21 rushes. He was able to give the team a 28-12 lead with a 19-yard TD run in the second half with 8:56 left in the fourth quarter. So overall, that was my biggest impression. It was an upset on paper. Obviously, you have a team from the Sun Belt, which went 2-10 last year, and going to Tennessee, which did not have a winning record last year, but still is an SEC program. And we all know about Tennessee and the winning tradition that they've had there in the past, not so much lately. They're trying to do that with Jeremy Pruitt as the head coach, but not so much last year, and obviously bad start to the 2019 campaign. But it wasn't a fact of Georgia State running a triple option attack, going back to my name of our segment, or running an air raid and really throwing the ball all around the field and using trickery and all that stuff and deception, or Tennessee being decimated by a bunch of injuries and things along those lines. Georgia State was able to control the line of scrimmage. And we spoke with Hunter Atkinson, but during preseason camp for Georgia State football. I highly recommend that you go to our site, thesportsinquirer.net, and see our interview with him. Very confident in Brad Glenn, new offensive coordinator system, of rushing the ball and pushing a fast tempo and pace for Georgia State's offense against the defense. And you saw that once Georgia State was able to get first downs, it was no huddle. They were able to outcondition and outwork the Tennessee defensive front seven. That surprised me quite a bit. Now, I will say that Georgia State do return several veteran linemen that were young last year, but then they have Atkinson, who's a senior and a all-conference player in the Sun Belt. But still, that surprised me quite a bit. And then you also look on the other side of the ball. Georgia State was able to get multiple sacks. Let's see. Tennessee only had 2 sacks and 6 offensive tackles for loss on the offensive side. And Georgia State had, I think, more sacks and more negative plays forced on defense than Tennessee did. I said that was a very surprising aspect of the contest. But you look at Georgia State, they do return 20 of 22 starters, and one of them, Penny Hart, who is playing professionally right now, you would argue probably their best player from last year on paper, sure. But they returned their quarterback, who's a senior, who's a veteran, has played a lot of football in his career, from junior college to now, had a full year last year starting for Georgia State. You have a lot of underclassmen at receiver and running back, including Barnett, excuse me, I keep saying Barrett. I was thinking of a Barrett from earlier. Barnett. You have Trey, who is a sophomore now, a veteran player for the Panthers. So they have guys who played a lot, and they had secondary last year that at some point played all of their secondary were freshmen or redshirt freshmen. Those guys are now sophomores. So you add that experience to the team from 2019. Now, will Georgia State run the gauntlet and go undefeated the rest of the season? I highly doubt that. But can they be a bowl team? Without question. I think you saw that. They could be a 6-7 win team with all those returners and everything like that. But we're skipping ahead on that stuff. But let's get to Coach Elliott on the Tennessee win itself. And we thank Georgia State Athletics for this audio as far as him right after the contest.
Coming in here into
Actually, we're going to play another audio. That was Dan. We'll get to Dan in a moment, but we're going to play with Coach Elliott, his thoughts on the victory.
First of all, I'll just go ahead and say how extremely proud I am of our university, our football program. To come in here and do something probably only the 108, 109 players that we have on our roster believe we could do. I don't know if anybody else in the country believed it, had any doubt that a program of just a mere 10 years old could come in here, Neyland Stadium, University of Tennessee, and beat them. But we believed. I mean, August 1st, there wasn't any sign that we didn't believe in our confidence and believe in ourselves to do things that's never been done before. We were well coached. Our strength conditioning I thought was outstanding. It was telling on the football field who was in better shape, and we notched a signature win for our university and our football program. It was an unbelievable day. I'm so proud of our guys and our players because ultimately they work so hard to do the things necessary to put us in a position to even go and compete. The weights, the practices. I mean, you hear us coaching, and most of the time us coaches, we're all belly aching and bitching and griping, and we can do more in this, we need to do better in that. And today it was just icing on the cake. I mean, it really was. It was a joy to sit back and watch and see the confidence in our guys' eyes and our guys' hearts. You could see it just continue to pump in the second half as we took that drive down and scored. It was, almost at that point, I hate to say there was a feeling in the game, but I almost saw them spit the bit out when that score went in. I saw a lot of heads dragging, and I'm big in demeanor and what teams look like. And I think when we notched that score, there was a little kink that just snapped off their armor, and it started putting doubt in their mind, and it just steamrolled from there.
And that was Coach Shawn Elliott on the victory. And being out there during preseason camp, it was hot out there. There's no shade at Georgia State Stadium where they practice. Literally melted the bottom of my sneakers. I need to get compensation from Georgia State for that. I'm just kidding about that. But, yeah, honestly, they were well-conditioned. They were ready to play, and there were hot conditions. There has been a cold day in Georgia. We're based here in Atlanta. It's been hot the entire month of August and even into September right now. So they used those conditions to their advantage and were able to lead the flow of the contest completely and get the victory. Now we're going to play Dan Ellington and his thoughts on post-Tennessee, and then we'll get to our interview with Coach Elliott. But here is Dan Ellington, courtesy of Georgia State Athletics audio from the post-game presser against Tennessee.
We just came out and played every play like it was our last. Coming in here into an SEC opponent, we know all the odds was against us. I think we had like 2% of chance of winning this game. That's what the people in Vegas said anyway. But we just wanted to come here and prove everybody wrong, and I thought we did that today. And I think it was like 4 minutes left. And I was like, defense, I need one more stop. Just give me the ball back in my hands, and we were winning from there. And they caught a pick the next play. I was like, oh, yes, let's go. And when that happened, I was just like, this is coming true. So I was very excited.
What was going through your stare?
Yeah, the defensive end chased.
The touchdown run.
I kept giving it and giving it and giving it. And one of the rules I have, if I know I can beat the defensive end, pull it. And I just kept giving it and giving it and giving it. And on that play, it was like 3rd and 2, I want to say, and I pulled it, and I saw the linebacker chase me, and I saw like grass. Like if I made a miss, I knew I was gonna get a lot of yards. So I stuck. I made him miss. And I saw nothing but the checkers in the end zone. I was like, all right, you got to get in there. And Sam made a really good block, and I got in there. I think that's our first, if I'm not mistaken, that's our first Power 5 win. I'm blessed to be a part of it. I'm blessed to be part of this team. It's our 10th year. Those guys in that locker room are so excited right now, and they deserve it. This program really deserves it.
How were you able to kind of bounce back as well as you did?
Next play mentality. To be honest with you, I had forgot it happened when I went back out on the field. Coach Elliott threw me out a little bit, but it was just the next play mentality. And you know, that's what you got to have playing in a game like this. You got to have next play mentality. The first couple of drives, I missed high a lot. I mean, I was missing high. And, you know, I got on the phone with the offensive coordinator, Coach Glenn. He asked me, he's like, you know, what you want me to do? Or like, what you want me to call? So just call some plays to get me in rhythm. And the next series, he called plays that got me in rhythm, and we went out and scored a touchdown. So once I got a rhythm, I was fine.
Rest of the season.
Yeah, you know, you got to take it one game at a time. I mean, this obviously is a really, really big win for us. And, you know, we're going to enjoy today and tomorrow. But Monday when it comes, we got to be focused on Furman. I know they're a good football team, FCS team. You know, they're going to have the same mindset we had today, come in there and upset them. And we got to make sure we're focused. It's our first home game, night game. I expect a lot of people to be there. So we got to make sure we're locked in all week at practice and, you know, make sure we're bringing the Furman also.
All right, and that was quarterback Dan Ellington on the victory. I want to get to this audio as well on Elliott, Coach Shawn Elliott, talking about the line play, and I thought that was a big part of the victory. So we're going to play that audio for him, and then we'll play our information or our interview with them a few days ago once they got back to Atlanta and his thoughts on the contest. But here's Elliott talking about the line play and the importance of that in the Tennessee victory.
Look at the two lines of scrimmage. I told our guys, I said it's no secret we've got to go be better than them on the offensive line and defensive line, and that's certainly if I were to turn on the tape that may be the glaring flaws to some degree for Tennessee, and I didn't know because I watched last season, but those are some of the things that we felt like we could control. We felt like not that we were going to go dominate the line of scrimmage by any stretch, but I thought we had quickness in our defensive line to give their offensive line some problems, and I thought we could push them a little bit with our offensive line. We try to keep things very, very simple for our guys up front, and for the most part, they did exactly what we thought we could do. They went out and executed, and at times I felt like we could have probably ran the same play over and over again. And if you go back and watch it, we probably did a number of times. But the two lines of scrimmage in any football contest are going to be the telling point of who's going to win and lose that football game. And our two lines of scrimmage played well today.
So they're wrapping up the Tennessee contest. That was Coach Elliott talking about the line play. We were able to get to practice on September 2nd. September 3rd. No, it was the 2nd or 3rd. I think it was the 2nd. Yes, it was the 2nd. We were able to get to practice and speak with Coach Elliott directly. This is our audio now. And we speak with them about the victory and moving on to Furman, which takes place on on this Saturday. But you listen to these shows different times of the day and different days than we actually record them, which is understandable. So they play Furman on September 7th. So we're able to speak with him on September 2nd about the victory and the reaction from the nation and getting ready to face Furman in the home opener. So here's our audio of Coach Elliott speaking with him during practice.
Great. I think the media attention, the publicity, or whatever you want to call it, just friends reaching out. It was something that grabbed the attention of a lot of people, and just an awesome feeling. I'm so proud of our players. Our players did it. I mean, it's about those guys, and I'm sure they've gotten text, and at some point that's going to stop. We got to turn those phones off and shy away from all that attention. And we got to understand that, we've got a game to play this Saturday night, Furman, and what a huge game it is for us. So the tension's all well and good, but we're going to move on. We're going to push past it.
Ever since you've come here, we've talked. The first thing you mentioned a lot of times is line play. Obviously, your background with the O-line. Discuss the line play in Tennessee. Not only did you outrushed them, you were able to get more negative plays and things like that. Just talk about how well your lines play, especially your offensive line, getting all those rushing yards.
Well, I just think, they were very, very well prepared. They've, especially on the offensive front, they've played a lot of snaps together, other than our right tackle, Travis Glover. And the same thing defensive line-wise. Harter Willis was coming back from having a year off because of a medical situation last year. So, it was just good to see a lot of consistency and a lot of experience out there. And it showed. It really showed. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly is going to have to improve for us to get better, but I'm very proud of both sides of the line.
And then coming up, you touched on it earlier. How do you get the team to turn the page from last Saturday and prepare for this Saturday coming up for you?
Well, you got to educate them. I mean, you got to educate them. You educate them who Furman is, who their coach is. Clay Hendricks is well respected. He's a heck of a football coach. The name Furman University goes a long way. I've got to educate them because I've played against them. I've competed against Furman for a lot of years, and I know exactly who they are, and I know so much about them, and I will make sure they hear those things every single day because this is a good football team. They can move the football. They're well coached. Defensively, they're going to be sound. We've got to do everything in our power to come out here with the right mindset to go hunt the Furman Polhamus. People think, now we've got a bullseye on our back, which is kind of ridiculous. I think in life you got to always go hunt, and that's what we got to do against Furman.
They're going to go hunting on Saturday night against Furman, and Coach reiterated a lot of stuff that we've talked about on the show so far. But very big win for Georgia State and the program, and I was happy. And we're objective here at the Sports Inquirer, and we don't root for winners and losers, and we try to be objective as possible, which we are. But it was a good win for the team and for the program. And you look at the athletic department, we have a lot of ties to them. The way we cover stuff, we go to a lot of practices, a lot of games. You're cordial with a lot of the folks that you cover. You're fair, you're objective, you ask the tough questions because we're the ancillary or I'm trying to say the word. We're the connection between you, the listener or reader, to the athletic department, and just ask questions that you want answered and things along those lines. But you work with the sports information staff, you work with the radio and TV broadcast, even if you go higher up, even down to the assistant ADs and the athletic directors and all that stuff. So I have relationships with them, just seeing them a lot and covering a lot of the sports. So I was happy for Charlie Cobb, the athletic director, who we're going to try to get on our show in the very near future. We usually do once a year, try to get Charlie on the show. But then you move on down to Dave Cohen, who's been the voice of the Panthers for 30-plus years. He's become a good friend of us over the years. Very happy for him. And Sam Crenshaw, the broadcast crew, and even the sports information staff, and all those people you deal with at least once a week when you're heading down to practices and games. So you see them, you start to know about their backgrounds and things like that. So a very big win for Georgia State athletics. So very happy for them and that experience. Now they have to turn the page, as Coach Elliott said, and myself as well, against Furman, who is a very strong FCS program, nationally ranked. And you don't have much information on them. They won their first game of the season, but they're going to come ready to play. And it's weird. Yeah, Georgia State, I don't know if they'll ever be the hunted, as some are saying, but for Furman, they're going to try to make a name because if they beat Georgia State, they beat Tennessee. So that's the way things are. We'll be at the game. We'll have a bunch of content post-game, and on our next Sports Inquirer show, we'll break down some things there as well. The rest of the Sun Belt, really no major appearances. We saw Lafayette, or University of Louisiana, excuse me. They don't like to be called Lafayette anymore. It's Louisiana. They played, I think, Mississippi State on at the Superdome in New Orleans. They lost that contest. Georgia Southern really got beat up badly at LSU. I was very surprised by that. I'm talking about teams that have played the major conference foes. Very surprised that Georgia Southern did not play well in that contest. And there are some other teams out there trying to do some things, but Sun Belt, the Georgia State win obviously is the big win for the program and for the conference. That was a very good moment for a very good conference that I think can produce between App State and Louisiana, and I think Georgia Southern. And I have to look at them a little bit further and see what their breakdown is, but they usually have a really good team as well. It's usually a team that has about 4 or 5 winning teams, and that can win some bowl games. And I think that's going to be the same case. Now, Georgia State, can they put themselves in that category? You never know. But that was a very good win for Georgia State, the program, and the conference over Tennessee. Moving on to the ACC, we saw Georgia Tech with their first game under new coach Jeff Collins playing at Clemson. I said before this contest, wrong team, wrong opponent, wrong time of the year for this contest for Georgia Tech. Clemson, defending national champions, return a lot of talent. Both sides of the ball very established in everything that they want to do. You knew they'd be very excited and geeked up being at home for the first game of the season, raising the national championship banner, all the crowd, big scene Thursday night. And we saw that with Georgia Tech falling at Clemson 52-14. Tough statistics for the Yellow Jackets. Outrushed 411 to 157 and outgained overall 632 to 294 in total yardage. Clemson scored the first 35 points of the contest and led 28-0 at halftime. Third down conversions were a weakness for Georgia Tech, 5 of 16 on those conversion attempts. You look at lots of work for the Yellow Jackets, especially on the line. We spoke so much about Georgia State controlling Tennessee on both sides of the line, offense and defense. Georgia Tech was not able to do that at all. It's a long work in progress for the Yellow Jackets. But I think Coach Collins, Oliver started at quarterback. He played a bit last year. I don't know what they're going to do against South Florida. We'll see what happens in that contest. But obviously having quarterback is very helpful. They ran the ball a lot more than I thought, but I think in that type of contest, they had more rushing attempts, I should say. In that type of contest at Clemson, you really want to establish the basics, and running the ball is the most basic thing. It's complicated, of course, but as far as execution, you run the ball, you block a man, it's pretty straightforward. It's very simple relative to a passing game. I think as we saw Georgia Tech do, they tried to keep it pretty basic, pretty straightforward, and their talent was just not as good as Clemson. Now, in this upcoming week, they do have South Florida, who got beaten up badly at home against Wisconsin. I think it's a winnable game for Georgia Tech. I think if Georgia Tech, if you look at the barometer of being a 4 or 5 win type of team, which I think they are, you have to win this game, because it's the difference between a 2-10 team and a 4-8 team, which I know still is a losing record, but for the rebuilding that Georgia Tech is going under right now, those 2 wins I think mean a lot as far as morale goes. So I think this coming contest against South Florida is very crucial for Georgia Tech. I did not see the contest. I saw some highlights, and I was able to see some replays of it, but I did not see it live. Why didn't I see it live? I do not have the ACC network. We have the SEC network in our home, Pursuit household once again, and we're able to not only get the SEC games, get the SEC Today, all of the volleyball, the tennis, the soccer, all those different, and baseball, which really gets cooking in the spring. You get all of those sports. It's great. The distribution is solid. It's on DirecTV, on Comcast. I'm naming some Southern Dish Network, Southern cable providers. Wherever you listen to this to, that's what we have in the South. AC Network's not even on Comcast. I don't know if it's on ATT Uverse or on the Dish, but I saw people having struggles finding the contest. But Comcast is a big player here and is not on here. And literally up to game day of the contest, you had people complaining on Twitter. I was following that were complaining about not having the game. They made a big push on ESPN, having College Game Day there, having their full crew, including the Herb Street, Lee Corso, and their whole crew, as far as making this a big contest. And then they're telling you to go to the ACC network, and half the country doesn't have it. That's not a good look for the ACC at all. And maybe it'll be resolved, maybe not. I think if you look at, there's also an issue with some of the cable distributors for Braves games on Fox Sports. So if you have Fox Sports have issues ESPN. It seems like only ESPN is the only sports station that you get on every distributor, and they charge a lot for it. And ESPN is the king, but you have Fox Sports, you have AC Network. I'm sure the same thing, SEC Network, wherever you're listening, might have the same issues as well. The cable distributing issue of sports is going to be a major situation, or if it not already is, within the next 4 or 5 years. And the launch of the AC Network and the unavailability of it around the nation, especially even in Atlanta, where Georgia Tech is based, not being able to see the game, that's bad. But if you look at around the rest of the ACC, now some other struggles as well. Florida State losing at home to Boise State 36-31. The Seminoles led 31-19 at halftime, didn't score in the second half. It might be too much for Willie Taggart and the Florida State athletic department and just them being together. Taggart did a very good job at South Florida. He's a Florida native. All the check marks are there for him to be successful. But you look at last year, losing record, did a lot of things that the Seminole program had not done in a very long time. And I know you say maybe Jimbo Fisher left the cupboard bare when he went to Texas A&M. It goes beyond that. They look uncompetitive, unprepared last year, and then you come into this year, you get off to a very good start. This is a contest with Boise State traveling across the country. They had to move the game from Jacksonville to Tallahassee due to the situation with Hurricane Dorian. And condolences and prayers to the islands and to Florida and the coast of the east, from the Carolinas to Virginia. With the Dorian, looks like it's can cause some major impact. The Bahamas was hit very, very hard. Very graphic and saddening pictures and video from Bahamas to the impact the hurricane had. And now it's towards the United States and things along those lines. So prayers out to those people, and to, if you have family members or just the world in general connected to the Barbados and to the areas affected by Dorian. That's not sports related, but it came up, so I wanted to get that out there. That contest for Florida State and Boise State was moved from Jacksonville to Tallahassee, so it turned into a home game for the Seminoles. Then you have Boise State with their true freshman quarterback starting on the road and able to do that. And Boise State, this is not the same Boise State with Kellen Moore, who were top 10 programs, beating Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl and being a potential BCS contender when the BCS existed. That's not the same Boise State squad they have now. So name Boise State solid, but to lose that game, and then Taggart and the coaching staff come out and talk about conditioning was an issue in the contest. That is an incredibly bad excuse for, not only are you based in Florida, you should never use that excuse in general. I don't care if you train in Siberia. Conditioning is the one thing that you control in sports, and to use that as an issue, or saying it might have been an issue, and saying that publicly, not a good sign for Florida State. Miami lost to Florida 24-20. I think Miami's okay. Good back linebacker. The defense is productive. Offensively, they're working with some young talent, particularly at the tackle position. And they started one freshman court tackle. I think they had two freshman tackles at some point out there. That's tough to deal with. Florida, despite the ups and downs of that program, it's still Florida that has a lot of talent. But Miami, both teams I thought struggled quite a bit in that contest. Florida just made lesser mistakes to come out with the victory. But Miami, with their new Coach Diaz, a new situation there, they're trying to figure things out, but that was a loss. Duke losing to Alabama 42-3 in the Chick-fil-A Bowl or Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Not surprised by that at all. Duke losing Daniel Jones at quarterback. He's now with the Giants, first-round pick. Dealing with all that, playing Alabama in kind of Tuscaloosa East in Atlanta. And it turns to Tuscaloosa East whenever Alabama plays in Atlanta. Unless they're playing Georgia, then it becomes a little more split. But Alabama takes over a city, and that's what they do. And take over a stadium. That's what they usually do when they play in Atlanta. And, Duke can still do some good things, but that was not their night. Respect to Mac Brown and North Carolina for getting a win over South Carolina 24-20. Mac Brown, you think he's in the twilight of his career, and he's not going to lead them to a national championship or maybe even a conference championship. but he brings stability to the program, and that's what the North Carolina program desperately needed. And getting a win over South Carolina, very big for them. Now South Carolina, Jake Bentley, looks like he has a foot injury. At first we heard it was broken, but I saw this on the scroll while we were about to record the show that it's a foot issue. So he might be out 6 weeks, which is half the season. So they're going to start their true freshman quarterback, South Carolina, who some had as a sleeper pick in the SEC East. First of all, Georgia, and we'll get to Georgia. They're by a large margin the best team in the SEC East. Some would say the best team in the SEC. I won't go that far yet. But South Carolina looked to be that team that could do that, or Missouri, who lost at Wyoming. No. Florida is still the second best team in the SEC East, which might not be saying too much, but they are what they are. And South Carolina, especially with Bentley out right now, someone say Bentley being out maybe is a good thing. He's a senior. He's played since freshman year, literally. You can't replace that experience, but some would say he has not lived up to expectations or been consistent enough. We'll see what they can do with their freshman quarterback in there. And we had 2 conference games in the ACC as well this weekend, or past weekend. Boston College beat Virginia Tech 35-28, and Virginia won at Pitt 30-14. I think people are very optimistic about Virginia winning their side of the ACC, their preseason pick. Getting a win at Pittsburgh on the road was very good for them. Boston College, usually disrespected, undervalued, able to get a win over Virginia Tech. It's at 35-28. So those teams can be in that 8 to 9 win range to win Clemson's going to win their side, but maybe a team that can finish second or third in the conference as far as number of wins. Maybe those teams, Boston College or Virginia, should be looked at and not so much Miami or Florida State. Let's get to Georgia. They were able to win their contest at Vanderbilt 30-6. Hope we're just getting some recording here. Let's see. Yeah, thoughts on this contest. Pretty straightforward when you have that offensive line and both lines. Here's what you're going to do if you're Georgia in that contest against Vanderbilt. We're going to run the ball until Vanderbilt can stop us, and we're going to stop their run because the best player on Vanderbilt is the running back, and we're going to stop their run, force the new starting quarterback for Vanderbilt, whoever plays out there, to make throws and beat us. Vanderbilt was not able to do that. Jake Fromm was able to, was very efficient, 15 of 23 passing for 156 yards, had a TD. The Bulldogs rushed for 325 yards. DeAndre Swift had 149 of those rushing yards. It was the 5th time in his career he was rushed for more than 100. The Georgia defense, as I mentioned, allowed only 225 total yards, and they were able to just continue to work. Vanderbilt was only able to convert 3 of 14 on third down opportunities, and just complete dominant performance by Georgia. As I said, if you want to see the passing game improve, and Georgia is working in some new receivers and things along those lines, look for the Murray State game coming up this Saturday to work on some of that stuff. Or, well, some would say some of the other SEC games. But when you're in the first game of the year on the road, and Vanderbilt, and I say this as a Vanderbilt alum, I have love for my Commodores. It's just not one of the stronger teams they've had there. And when I say stronger, maybe if they win 5, if they get to a bowl game this year, I'll be very happy and content with that. So they're not playing Alabama. They're not playing LSU for that matter. So, or a team like that. So Georgia able to run the ball, be quite efficient, win the contest, and keep it moving. And we'll get to, before we get to Kirby Smart's audio from the contest. As I said, I lived in Nashville 7 years, 4 years as a Vanderbilt undergrad, 2 years as a Belmont graduate student, and 1 year working in the city. It's a unique dynamic of Nashville compared to other cities. And we'll stick with the SEC. You look around to other SEC schools, they do not play they're not in major markets. You have some adjacents, like Baton Rouge to New Orleans, I'll give you that. Georgia to Atlanta, I mean, I'll give you that as well, as far as gotta be adjacent to big cities. Missouri a little bit with Columbia to Kansas City. Yeah, okay, or St. Louis. Okay, whatever. You get what I'm saying. The thing is, and I've seen this when I was an undergrad back in 1999, 20 years ago. I'm getting old, or older. fans go to Nashville to party. It's a good stadium to see a game in. It's not as big as it's a smaller stadium. It's not as big as some of the other ones, but very intimate, very simple to get to, and fans do, especially when they play at Georgia and Alabama or Florida, they will be in the majority compared to the Vanderbilt fans. And some are saying, I talked to some of my Nashville people saying it's the worst they've ever seen a stadium taken over. And I used to get mad at that and get frustrated and get thoroughly annoyed by that as a Vanderbilt fan, especially when I was an undergrad, when I was in my early 20s and I'm mad at it. But you look at the economics, look at the numbers, you look at the fan bases. Would I love for Vanderbilt to have 95% capacity, all of Vanderbilt people? That'd be awesome. That'd be great. I would love it. But I'm a prime example of it. I grew up in New York City, went to college at Vanderbilt. I spent more time there than I thought, honestly, in Nashville, because I like the city and the circumstances. But a lot of people, they go to Vanderbilt, we get our degrees, and we keep it moving. We either go back to where we came from, as far as some people go back to New York or go back to Atlanta or Florida, Hawaii, wherever, and they go to do whatever. It's a private school. That's just the way things work. We don't have a lot of in-state. I mean, we have some very strong, I say we because I went there. I could say it, darn it, Vanderbilt. We have a great fan base that supports the team, supported them when they were a lot worse in football than when I got there. And I went to my junior and senior year. They were 2-10 each of those years. So I've seen some bad football. Went to every game still. I went to every contest. And it's just the way that it is. You have Georgia, extremely big fan base, easy drive. I almost went to the game myself. It's less than 4 hours from Atlanta or from Georgia, no matter where you're at. You make the drive. You spend a great 2-3 days in Nashville. Labor Day weekend, too. You get that extra day off. So you go to Nashville. You see your Bulldogs play. You cheer them on. You do your barking and all that jazz, and your team wins. Georgia is maybe the second or third best team in the country, or maybe the best team, depending where you look at. They're top 5 easily. So you know you're going to see your team play at a high level and win. You're going to make the trip and travel. And if you're Vanderbilt, you don't turn down that money, all that parking, all that concessions, all of the ancillary business that comes with all the Georgia people moving or going to the game. You take that. And it's a conference game because you have to accept it. So the narrative that people say, oh, they take over the stadium and they dominate, that's fine. That's just the way it is. Those are the economics. Those are the numbers and the way things are. So I don't look at it as a mad or frustrated or shocking. I saw some fellow media members, like it's never happened before also. Georgia plays there every other year. They're in the same side of the SEC. You said it in 2019. I saw the same things in 2017, 2015. I witnessed it as an undergrad myself. Every other year, it's all these Georgia people. Wow, we went to Nashville and took over the city. We took over the stadium. Of course you did. It's not shocking anymore. Acknowledge it, that's fine, but stop bragging about it like you've done some great thing. I just don't get that logic at all. Wow, went off on a tangent there. Well, let's get to Kirby Smart himself, his thoughts on the victory, and then move on to the rest of the SEC and what we saw over Labor Day weekend. So here's Kirby on the victory.
A long way to go. We didn't have a lot. We had a lot of undisciplined penalties and didn't play efficiently in the second half, at least offensively. But I'm proud of our guys. I don't take it lightly when you go on the road in a SEC opener and you open up with, a couple touchdowns, 2 or 3 touchdowns in a row. I think that's big. We had a lot of young guys on defense step up and play well. Well, I think Vanderbilt leads to some of those lulls, playing hard and us not operating efficiently. I mean, at the end of the day, we know what kind of boxes we're going to see. We know what kind of fronts we're going to see. We've got to be able to expand and do more things and throw the ball downfield, stretch the field, get some of the wideouts involved. And I think Jake can do that. We got to protect him to be able to do it. But ultimately, we wanted to come in here and play physical and establish a brand of football that we play, and I thought we did that.
We can have a good defense because we've got a lot of speed. We need some more activity up there in the front. We need to make some more tackles. We need to stay off people's face masks. because we basically gave them 45 yards and 2 field goals on undisciplined penalties.
And that was Kirby Smart, head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, and his thoughts on the victory. They move on to face Murray State on September 7th. Should be a pretty simple contest and a straightforward victory for the Bulldogs. We'll see what happens there. Let's see, rest of the SEC. We touched on Florida and Alabama. Auburn, big win over Oregon, 27-21 in Dallas. True freshman Bo Nix, late TD pass, with a few seconds left in the contest, sealed a victory for the Tigers. Auburn goes as far as their quarterback goes. We've seen with Cam Newton and Marshall, when they have a good quarterback, they are national championship contenders. When they have average quarterback play, like Stidham the past 2 years, who I think is a good quarterback, and you've seen him do some okay things preseason-wise for New England Patriots, but didn't fit the style of Gus Malzahn. Yeah, Bo Nix, his father played for the program. He's been wanting to be a Tiger since he was a little kid. He had a very strong prep career in Alabama, so he knows everything that goes on in that program. It said he fits the mold of what Gus Malzahn wants in a quarterback. Can Auburn beat Alabama or LSU on that side of the conference in the West, or even beat Georgia? That might be a tall task, but I think Auburn is heading in the right direction with the Knicks. So that was a big win for them. And then we'll go to the rest of the conference. The thing I was seeing as well with some commentary and listening to shows was the SEC is down, the demise of the SEC with the rest of their losses. Memphis beat Ole Miss 15-10. We touched on South Carolina, their struggles. Tennessee, which is in a big mess right now with Georgia State, lost to Georgia State at home. We touched on that quite a bit. Arkansas only able to beat Portland State at home 20-13. Missouri losing at Wyoming 37-31. All those teams were probably 6-win teams at best. You look at the rest of the conference, Alabama is strong. Georgia is strong. And I'm talking national championship strong for those guys. LSU is a playoff contender. Auburn can, if you squint your eyes and you kind of look at them a little bit, like they might be a playoff contender, or definitely a major bowl contender. LSU, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned them as well. No, Florida. Florida may not be at the level of the Georgia and Alabama and LSU's, but they could be a 8-9 win team and compete very well. And then we'll end on this, and before we get to Atlanta United and the overarching themes from this weekend. When I said in the preseason, my playoff teams already: Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. That's what it's going to be unless something drastic happens. You want to slot Georgia into the picture instead of Alabama? If they meet each other in the conference championship game in the SEC and Georgia wins and they're in the playoffs, fair enough. I respect that. But then Alabama might be the second team from the conference. Ohio State, I see no competition in the Big Ten for them. And all these Big Ten people, and I look at Fox Sports as the main culprit of this. There's SEC fatigue and Southeastern fatigue because Clemson's starting to get that as well. They're tired of seeing Clemson and Alabama because it's two Southern teams playing for a championship. That's fair. And ESPN has big contracts with the ACC and the SEC, so they're rolling with it. Yeah, Fox Sports, I see all the people, Joe Klatt, Colin Cowherd, I'll name them all, screw it, I don't give a crap. Skip Bayless, all of them on there talking about the demise of the SEC. It's down, it stinks, it's terrible. Who's the biggest distributor of, I'll flip that. Who owns the TV rights to the Big Ten? Fox. Who owns the Big Ten? Who owns the rights to the Pac-12? Fox. Who has ties and deals with the Big 12? Fox. Who's the main distribution of all of their radio content, and especially with Cowherd? Midwest and the West Coast. East Coast doesn't have much love for Fox. You look at the market. Southeast, not much love for Fox. So when you see these people talking about the demise of the SEC and how bad it is, and they want to prop Ohio State, they've been a playoff team. They've won the national championship within the past 5 years. I'll give you that. Ohio State with Justin Fields at quarterback, they're a legit top 5 type top 10 team. I'll give you that. But outside of them, Penn State, Michigan, good teams. Are they national championship contender teams? I highly doubt that. You can give me Wisconsin every year. Wisconsin. No, they're not at that level. Not at all. Northwestern, winning program, respect. Fellow academic school like Vanderbilt, got love for them? No. There's not depth in that conference. Iowa, okay, when you're 8-9 games, finish top 10 or not even top 10, top 20 in the final AP poll, whatever, keep it moving. Okay? That's what the Big 10 is. Big 12's even worse. Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts looked very good. And slow down on giving him the Heisman. Played Houston. A very good performance. I know he put up a lot of numbers, but it's getting to the point we've seen Kyler Murray put up numbers. Baker Mayfield put up numbers. That's what Lincoln Riley does at Oklahoma. That's the way he rolls. So to put him in a net, and Jalen Hurts, he runs. I don't like him running as much as he did. People are like, oh, it adds extra dynamic to the game. He's going to get hurt by the end of the year running as much as he did. You looked at Mayfield and Kyler Murray. People want to talk about them as runners. They threw the ball a lot more in the pocket than you realize. Now, I know Kyler Murray, great runner, maybe one of the fastest players to ever play the game, but he threw from the pocket a lot. He had some breakaway runs. That's going to happen. But Hurts wants to run as much as he does. He's not going to make it through an entire season. So let's slow down on him. But Oklahoma, they've been a playoff team the past 2 years. We've seen what they can do. I'll give you Oklahoma. Texas got Sam Ellinger. You got the get things going with Texas. Maybe they can finish top 10. Playoff team, maybe. They beat Oklahoma. You never know. I'll give you Texas a little bit. What's the rest of that conference? Texas Tech? Bye. TCU? No. Oklahoma State? They'll put up a lot of offense and be fun to watch, but playoff contender? No. Pac-12 is even worse. Oregon, I think, is a solid team. You got Justin Herbert, who's a top half of the first round NFL quarterback that's going to be picked in April. I'll give you him in Oregon. Oregon could be a 10-win team. That's fair. But outside of them, what's the rest of that conference? USC, who just had their quarterback injured for the year and now starting a true freshman and barely were able to survive against Fresno State. That USC is supposed to be legit? No. Stanford, Northwestern of the West, Vanderbilt of the West. I like what I see from them, but are they playoff contender? No. Look at the Arizona schools. No, thank you. Cal, rebuilding. Oregon State, trying to figure stuff out. Mike Leach, Washington State, fun team to watch. Put up a lot of points. Intriguing. Playoff contender? No. ACC, Clemson, the rest of the league. What I'm trying to say is that you look at all these people talking about the demise of the SEC and how bad it is and the struggles that they're going to have. You still have 4 teams, I think, that can be double-digit win teams and playoff contenders. What does the rest of the conferences have on the SEC? Nothing. They're all the same. It's all top-heavy. I mentioned all the SEC schools, and we mentioned Alabama and Georgia, and I'll throw LSU in there. Do I trust any other teams in that conference? No, I do not. Every conference is the same. And the SEC we look at the NFL and all the draft picks that come out of the conference. Yeah, the talent is very strong. And I don't play the hypotheticals of put Mississippi State in the Big 12. What would they do? Or put Arkansas in the ACC. What would they do? There's so many moving parts to making that argument. But the reality is that the SEC is just like every other conference. But when you're talking about the warts and the bad parts of the SEC, talk about the warts of the other conferences as well and the bottom feeders. Vanderbilt, I love my squad, but are they in the bottom half of the conference? Without question. They are not good. But are they the same as a TCU that's going to have some struggles this year, or a Texas Tech? Sure, similar to I'll throw Georgia Tech in there, and they're going through a transition. We've talked about that. But a Georgia Tech that's going to have some struggles. Maybe a North Carolina that's going to have some struggles. Florida State. They're all the same. Once you take off the top 3 or 4 of every conference, it's all the same. And that's what you need to realize when you hear these people and the agendas that they have as far as looking at things objectively, or they say they're objective, but I'm like, oh, the SEC is down, it's bad. All the teams that lost, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri, neither one of them were really going to be playoff teams and even have winning records at the end of this year. So keep that in mind when you're looking at all this analysis of what's going on. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to get into Atlanta United and everything that happened in the world of Major League Soccer here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. Emar Supporter here with you here on the show. Yeah, Atlanta United, whereas they lost their final match for the international break in a 3-1 defeat to the Philadelphia Union this past Saturday in Philly. Joseph Martinez scored his 23rd goal of the year, while extending his MLS record goal-scoring streak to 13 consecutive matches. Atlanta got off to a 1-0 lead on a nice give-and-go between Darlington Nagbe and Martinez. Nagbe made a nice little backheel pass to Martinez in the penalty box area, and Martinez was able to take the pass off his knee in one motion, deflected off his knee and into the net off after a kick. So very nice fluid play there, but Philadelphia scored 3 second-half goals and were able to secure the victory. Philadelphia, is now first place in the Eastern Conference, their youth movement, and we were able to go to MLS, the homegrown game, which is where you see the young talent of the MLS All-Stars. What they do is they put together the young talent of homegrown players from each MLS team, form an All-Star team, and then they face an international squad. Last year in Atlanta, they faced Tigres, and I think Philadelphia had 5 guys in that contest, more than any other team. So you saw them making a big movement towards their homegrown players in their youth, and they've all elevated and found their way into the first team, and they brought in some veterans as well. And Philadelphia is a major player. They're in first place right now in the conference, so they deserve the victory. Atlanta does enter international break after finishing the month of August with a 7-1-0 record across all competitions. That includes winning the Campeones Cup over Club America and the U.S. Open Cup over Minnesota. So in August, they won 2 competitions, and they got a cup, and they're still in good space overall in the conference. But let's hear from Frank de Boer on the loss.
Like it, I said already to the television, I'm very proud of them, what they achieved. I think we were, until the maybe 65, 70 minutes, we maybe were the better team, or we had our chances to make the 2-0. And at the end, we ran out of steam. And I had to already change Julian because you saw that the battery was empty at that moment. And so, yeah, it was like that, they had more fresh legs than us, and then you see that moment, that small moment that you think, hey, when you're tired, you make then that decision, and yeah, that happened, and they punished us for that, and we had the chance to make 2-2, and at the end, okay, it's 3-1, and we have to swallow it and go on. Take a really nice break and charge the battery again, and then I'm really confident, that we can show what we showed, the last couple of weeks or the last month. Well, I think, they had really trouble, to build up from behind. Mediano didn't get in his game, Harris Mediano. So, yeah, I think we had a great plan, and we actually. Maybe, of course, because we were still maybe a little bit tired of the match, of course, against Minnesota. But still, I think we did well, and they didn't create. Only with the throw-in that they hit the crossbar. But for the rest, I think there was no problem at all. And so at the end, we make the 1-0, got the chance to make the 2-0, and then maybe it gives us a boost, and mentally. They go down, and when it's 1-0, they still believe in it, and then get the equalizer, and then our battery was then really empty at that moment.
So that was manager Frank de Boer talking about the team, and I don't like excuses, and we got on Florida State about conditioning and all that stuff. But Atlanta has played a very condensed schedule, a lot of road trips, and things along those lines. But it was they lost the contest, and Atlanta's a playoff team. You want to get that first spot because you get a bye in the postseason. That'd be very good. Atlanta's still in line for that, but they're very competitive in top of the Eastern Conference with Philadelphia and New York City FC. They're playing very well also. So Atlanta's on the international break, and Brad Guzan and Miles Robinson are with the Team USA. So they are representing the team there, and they're going to play Mexico this upcoming, I think, Friday or Saturday. So that'll be interesting to see. Glad for Miles Robinson. I've been talking for 2 years now, especially this year, especially why the man has not. That was his first time getting an international call up on any level, U18, U20, U23, and I think playing at professional level consistently really helped him out. And he's a very humble guy. And I know he's not very much into self-promotion, but the man, he's a first 11 contender, or best 11 contender this season for me in all of Major League Soccer. And that's where you get the best 11 players in the league. He's one of the top 3-4 defenders in the league right now, in my opinion. He's developed the defensive game very strong as a defender. He can distribute the ball a little bit better and starting to put himself into scoring opportunities, especially with headers. So he's becoming a full defenseman for Atlanta United. So very happy for him to get that look. Atlanta United does return to action on September 14th at home against Columbus. So they'll get a nice little 2-week break as far as the team goes. And when they come back, they'll be right in the midst of that final playoff push to get good positioning. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some college volleyball here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. Marcel Pertut here with you. And our technical state of Georgia athletics portion of our show. We're going to talk some college volleyball. This started off this past weekend for teams around the nation, and 2 local teams that we were able to go to preseasons for were Georgia State and Georgia Tech. We'll start with Georgia State, start the Panthers, and under their coach Sally Polhamus, looking to get their first postseason bid under Sally, but they had a very good weekend to start the year, and they were 2-1, They lost to Western Carolina, but were able to win against Lamar and Fordham. But before that tournament started, we were able to catch up with Sally and get her thoughts on this upcoming season. We're going to play those, and then, because she does little overarching themes, and then we'll get into her thoughts on that weekend tournament. So here's Sally from Georgia State Volleyball.
Fantastic preseason. We're very young, so a lot of it was just introductory training. With 2 new setters, basically, it's fun to run the offense and see what they bring. Our hitters are doing a nice job finishing, finding kills. That's a big theme for us this year, is finding points and finding kills. We had some really nice things last year, but we failed to find points at the end of games, and that's where you're going to get your wins from. Minimizing those unforced errors and finding your kills. And so that was a big focus for us this preseason so far.
Is it beneficial working with a younger roster because you've recruited them and you kind of know their tendencies and you can kind of coach towards what they like to do well?
So I was really blessed. When we took over the program here, we had great athletes in place, great teammates, all of those things. And so as players continue to evolve, our goal is to always recruit the next level. And I think that's what we're really getting into our gym, is continuing to up our level is in overall all positions. There's a lot more competition where we have a lot more depth. And that's been a lot of fun too, is seeing depths in positions and really trying to bring out each player's strengths.
And that was Sally discussing the preseason. And they, as I mentioned, they had their weekend tournament, the GSU Invitational, went 2-1 overall in that event. So here was Coach Sally about the weekend and their performances. As I mentioned, the 2-1. They started off on Friday with a loss 3-1 against Western Carolina, able to beat Lamar 3-2 and Fordham 3-1 that next day. So they had a lot of volleyball on that Saturday. We touched on that with her, but here is Sally on the weekend.
Our goal going into the weekend was to get better every point, and we definitely did that. From Friday to Saturday evening, we were a different team. We executed a higher level. We had made less unforced errors. We saw the game better, especially with so many young players out on the floor. Their growth has been so fun to watch.
How is it physically? You went training camp and then going into 3 matches in 2 days. How do you think the team held up in that regard?
Our strength coach, JD Miller, has done such a fantastic job getting our team ready and prepared. So I think that we looked good, and that was a big contributor to our win against Fordham in that 4th set, is that we were able to push through fatigue and execute even when Fordham was slowing down just a little bit with making more shots instead of terminal swings. So we were able to take advantage of that.
Talk about that Saturday. It was a long day. 5 sets against Lamar. Had to turn around later on that day and play for Fordham in 4 sets. So that was 9 sets of action in a 1-day period. What was that like for team? Was that a good thing in a way, just see your team be in that situation?
Exactly. So there's no other time of the year that we'll play multiple matches in 1 day. So it's really good, just mental fatigue, kind of pushing through. So we do enjoy playing those 2 matches on the same day, just to push us for later in the season when that fatigue is going to grow and competition continues to get better and better. So these next 3 weeks are the last time where we'll see that kind of action.
And now it's Coach Sally on Georgia State Volleyball. Make sure you go to our site with Lauren Bandera and Morgan Hash. We have exclusive interviews with them over through this past weekend. And we also have Sydney Stroud as well from the previous week during preseason. So make sure you check out all of those Georgia State volleyball interviews on the sportsinquirer.net. Georgia Tech was able to sweep their Georgia Tech Invitational over this past weekend with wins over Long Beach State, Southern, and UNC Asheville. They did fall at Kennesaw State last night on September 3rd, so the Yellow Jackets still off to a solid 3-1 start to their 2019 campaign. We're able to catch up with head coach Michelle Collier before the season started and get her thoughts on this upcoming year for Georgia Tech.
I felt the spring was great, especially because we only lost 1 player, so we were able to pretty much have all our returners here and worked a lot on different things that we wanted to get better at. Had a good competitive spring, did some fun stuff, went down to Florida again and just kind of did a park and competed, and so we felt like it was a pretty successful spring, getting our new assistant also acclimated with the team and being able to have her in the mix, and recruiting very heavy for us as well, as always in the spring. So we were able to do that. Summer was pretty good as well. We pretty much had everybody here, so all our freshmen got here in June. All our returners were here since May. So they did a great job in the weight room with our strength coach of really getting stronger, working on the physical side a little bit more on some of the things we wanted to do, and we definitely saw some great progress in that. And then having our freshmen here in June, and they had their open gyms and things like that, but just getting them into the swing of things to get to know campus and all those things was very helpful.
Well, let's reflect one more time on 2018. I had a winning record, but struggled in ACC play.
Mm-hmm.
What can you just see from looking back on 2018 heading into this year?
Yeah, definitely a very important year. I think a year of growth for us to be able to extend our season and play through December. I thought it was very important for the young group that we had. I think it laid a solid foundation. I think that we're still fairly young as most of our, we're heavy underclassmen group. But I think that the 18 was a very successful year. It also kind of let the younger players understand the grind of the season, the grind of the ACC, how competitive it is, and really have a good vision of where we need to go and some of the things that we're doing. So I was very pleased with 18. I didn't think we outreach ourselves too much, but we definitely didn't underperform. I think that we did a lot of really good things. It took a lot of important steps in the right direction.
And that was Coach Collier on Georgia Tech volleyball. On their site, we had not only her exclusive full interview, we also have Michaela Dowd and Cody Comby, the veteran players for Georgia Tech volleyball. Make sure you check the site out for that. We're going to skip through our last break and go straight to the final segment of the show, which is the miscellaneous department. Let me just make my notes here. We're doing this out on the fly. Gotta love it. All right. So, just final notes on things around the world of sports. NFL training camp has concluded. We are now in game week. So all of the big signings and trades and things like that are taking place. Ezekiel Elliott finally signed his new deal with the Cowboys, 6 years, $90 million, $50 million guaranteed. We knew this was going to happen at some point. I honestly thought when I saw the 6 years and $90 million, I was like, okay, they're going to tear up the final 2 years of his deal, and that's going to be the six from start from there because he has 2 years. Initially, he only had 2 years left on his contract. But no, what they did is they're adding 6 years to the 2 years they already have with them. So he's going to be a Cowboy on paper through his 20s into his 30s. Now, the way these contracts work, of course, is the first few years is when he gets the big money, and after that, a signing bonus at $50 million. So he's getting his pretty solid rate for being a first-round pick. So he has that slide over the next two, plus the $50 million guaranteed. So he's getting some nice money for the first 2 years. And then when the new contract kicks in, it's solid money, a little bit more of that guaranteed money as well. So overall, I thought it was a good deal for Ezekiel Elliott. He was able to win. Now you got to figure what's going to happen with Dak Prescott. He's on this final year of his deal worth, I think, only $1 million, if that. You got to figure his signing is coming in within the next 24 to 48 hours. We've been recording the show right now on September 4th, and we don't have any TVs on right now, but I'm sure if I turn something on, I might see the ticker of him signing his deal, similar to Jared Goff, re-signing with the Rams for 4 years, $134 million, $110 million guaranteed. Pretty standard rate for quarterbacks right now. It puts him in the top 5 in guaranteed money over the length of the contract. He went to the Super Bowl last year, continued to grow and evolve. So we're going to break down those contracts a lot more in our NFL preseason, our NFL preview show that we're going to record tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But I had to get those quick thoughts out as far as Elliott and Goff. I think relatively speaking for the market and what they were asking for, I think they're fair deals overall. Cowboys a little more complicated than Goff. I think Goff, quarterback, you see what the rate is. He's young. He's in 4 years is not a ton of money. Now I think I have to see if it's tacked on to his current deal. I don't know the deal, the significant or the implications of that. But Goff, not surprised by. Elliott, that's a lot of money. The crazy part about Elliott is that when Saquon Barkley signed his deal, Christian McCaffrey, when he gets his running back deal, will probably be more, especially for those franchises, that they're going to be the marquee guys. Daniel Jones is not going to be the marquee guy for the Giants for a long time. Cam Newton, it might be his last year in Carolina. I'm going to touch on that a lot in the show as well. Not that Cam's a bad player, but just the way things are kind of shaking out. You never know. So those guys might be the marquee guys. Is Elliott the marquee guy for the Cowboys? There's a Dak. I don't know what the money is, but they've already signed. They signed Jalen Smith to a new deal. They signed Lawrence, their defensive end, to a new deal. Who else? They signed another guy that I'm blanking on right now. So they've been very. I think Tyron Smith. No, I don't know if Smith has signed his deal, but point is they've been very busy, and they still got to take care of Amari Cooper, the wide receiver. You figure they got to take care of more defensive guys. So Cowboys are in an interesting spot right now overall. And we're going to conclude the show on that. Thank you for listening to our broadcast. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. Make sure you go to Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer, all one word. Facebook, The Sports Inquirer. And then finally, subscribe to us on YouTube and SoundCloud under The Sports Inquirer. And until next time, good fight and good night.